I wouldn't put it past him, Kyle, to make a spin-off about Admiral Akbar and his love life. Interesting idea, Kyle. DarbyCast, Monday, and you know what Mondays are. Sports. A lot of sports stuff happened this past weekend. I don't really want to talk about any of it. I'm going to be honest with you. NBA stuff going down. Hoops being made. Other hoops being missed. You're excited about that, perhaps, if you like the NBA. For you fighting fans, UFC 253. They're really getting up there. I still have a bone to pick with Dana White over Fight Island. Because if you go back in the DarbyCast catalog and you listen to the episode Bloodsport, you know damn well I beat Dana to that punch and that he is a hack. Okay. But I tell you what I'm thinking about today. Let's just jump right into it because I'm thinking about time travel. Now let me back up a step. First, I was thinking about hydration. And those two concepts, time travel and hydration, for today's episode, I will make them very related. Very related in a way that will astound some. And for the others who are used to stuff like this, they're going to be like, yeah, saw that coming from a mile away. Okay, so follow me on this one. The other day, Kyle and I were having this discussion. I say, Kyle, how many glasses of water do you drink a day? And he turns to me and says, well, not enough. And I say, Kyle, talk about radical candor out of you to be so forthright and honest. Because a lesser person would have lied right there and said, I drink so much water. But he was straight up with me. He was totally straight up. That's what you get when you've got a strong working relationship with somebody. They just tell you the truth. And because Kyle got vulnerable with me, did the same thing with him. I was like, I don't think I drink enough water either. Which then led us to think, if you were well hydrated at any point in history, you'd be a hell of a force, right? Okay, you tracking with this one? How dehydrated do you think athletes throughout the ages must have been? Immensely? Because when did it really come about? Everybody being like, oh, you better drink your 1 ounce for every pound of body weight. That's new. It's not super new, but it's new enough in the grand scheme of things. So immediately, I go to the place, I think time travel. I think, what if I went back to the Middle Ages and I was stocked with fresh water? And some of you are like, you going to bring back that much water? And I say, no, I bring potable water tablets. Because everybody else, they're drinking beer because it's clean. But everybody's constantly dehydrated, tanked. I show up at the medieval jousting tournament with some water tablets. I go over to the babbling brook alongside the arena, and people look at me and they're like, whoa, this guy's drinking water? It's pretty inappropriate. That's what the village folk are saying to one another, the commoners. And I'm just wearing a Camelback backpack. I just fill that thing right up, drop one of those tablets in it, and then I just juice up. I'm feeling fresh. Now, let me take you deeper on this medieval jousting time travel journey. Imagine if I brought pre-workout. I just take a scoop of pre before mounting a horse or getting in the dueling arena. I adorn heavy plated armor. After drinking quite a bit of water, I feel very fresh. I got 8 hours of sleep. The guy I'm fighting hasn't had a glass of water in a year and a half, and he slept for 15 minutes because he was too busy chasing wenches. Maidens. Wenches are more of a pirate thing. Good catch. Good catch. By me. A little self-call. Guy was chasing maidens. I'm like, dude, you got a big game in the morning. And you might get killed. Like, why don't you maybe show a little professionalism, right? So a scoop of pre-workout. What if I had a multivitamin beforehand? That's like a competitive advantage that you don't even want to touch. And I think it would be pretty obvious, time travel, as soon as I went back And let's just forego any of the mechanics of time travel and just say, it's done. It's fine. I just show up. People are going to start asking questions about me pretty quickly because I'm going to be showing up. Check this. Maybe with a Gatorade. Wow. People back then probably never had sugar like in their entire lives. Ever. Right? So a Gatorade for them, that's better than Walter White meth. But I would also probably bring back some Walter White meth to sprinkle in somebody's goblet just to kind of spike their punch, see how they react. It wouldn't go well, but like, you can imagine what it would be like. You just see some old guy named Archimedes, and you're like, hey, mateys, what's up, you sick bitch? And that's a dead giveaway that you're just not from around there. Archimedes, you sick bitch. He's not used to people talking to him like that. People are going to have their questions, but battling, swords, use a warhammer. You catch somebody square in the sternum because you're so well hydrated and they're just sloppy. They're like drunk while they're playing. Can you imagine an NFLer or a NBA player playing drunk other than like J.R. Smith? Can you imagine that? Yeah, that's a big call. A lot of people, they say like, hey, if you go back in time before modern weaponry existed, like you just bring an M60 and you just take over castles. And I've heard that before. I've heard that. But that's also like kind of inappropriate, I'll say, pretty disrespectful. You go back to that time with the Camelback backpack, maybe a Gatorade, check that, definitely a Gatorade. And that's how, with the Gatorade diplomacy. You following this? You go up to the king, the most serious king in the realm. You say, Edward, my man, I've got a Gatorade Frost here for you. Cascade Crash? Or would you prefer Riptide Rush? Frost flavors? Not bad. Maybe on my next trip, I'll bring you a Fierce. And he says, guards, because he's really rattled by you showing up, mentioning Gatorade and being like, here, have this. And he would be like, what kind of strange elixir is this? Mysterious traveler. I'd be like, fuck you, Edward. Just drink it. Just drink it, Ed. He takes a sip of that. Boom. I have his allegiance. And he's going to give me my own fiefdom for that. He is. He's going to gift me some land, even before the jousting tournament. But he's going to be like, dost thou ever hearest about jousting? And I'm going to be like, Ed, I have. Suit me up. You have a bed? Have you ever heard of My Pillow? And then I pull out a My Pillow and I just say, rest easy, Ed. I don't know if you know, but I'm really well hydrated. And he's going to say, what the fuck does that mean? And I'm going to say, Ed, I don't know how you lead people being as ignorant as you are. Have a good night. Enjoy that pillow. Next morning, I meet up with my squire, Bartholomew. I say, hey, Bart. Hey, Bart. I would say that like Milhouse from The Simpsons. He doesn't get it. He never will. Everything else I say to him is normal. I'll be like, yeah, would you just bring the horse around and make sure the lance is sharp? Do you got it, Bart? Hey, Bart. Yeah, I think that plays. Hey, Bart. Can you sharpen my sword real quick for me, pal? Would you do that just as a favor to me? And he would be like, righto. Is that what they said? Kyle, was righto a phrase? Check it. Historical significance. It's got to be bigger than we think it is. Those phrases always are. DarbyCast doctors know about that. Key catchphrase back in the Middle Ages. Righto. You bring that there, people are like, whoa, this guy is athletic. Look at that athlete. And people are going to obviously assume that you're a witch. If you're bringing this kind of heat, you're drinking water out of the brook, you're giving away Gatorade samples, you take some pre-workout, take some multivitamins. You are in the shape of your life. And people are just like, that's a witch. That guy is a witch. But you're totally prepared for that. At least I would be, because who would I bring back with me to take the heat off of me for being a witch? That's right, Christina Aguilera. I bring Aguilera with me in the time machine because she's still got it. You know, maybe I do a quick pit stop, time travel, hit Aguilera, pick her up when she's like 25, peak of her career, and I bring her back in the time machine with me. And she's like the perfect distraction. Everybody is just like, what is this maiden all about? She comes out blasting. She, get you, yeah, yeah, da, da. And then there's no heat on me because that kind of nonsense, you expect that out of a witch. What does that even mean? Get you, yeah, yeah, da, da. I wonder if there's serious significance to that went way over our heads when that song came out. But you take that back to the Middle Ages, people are going to ask questions. People are going to be asking questions. So quietly, I will be preparing for all these battles. All the village folk will be like, what is going on with that chick who's singing? Right? I've got this playlist. I'm going to give you full disclosure. I've got a playlist that I made in January. It was like right before the coronavirus was really picking up in a big way. And I said, I need to get more dialed in with the ladies because that's just, I need that. Why not? So I made this playlist and it's called Yay Women 2020. It's incredible. It features Christina Aguilera, Beyonce, Kelly Clarkson, but not just Beyonce. Let's just backtrack. So rewind. Not just Beyonce and Destiny's Child. Got a couple singles by Kelly Rowland when she did her solo deal. Sure, she never really did a whole lot, but she has this one song. It's called Work. And the Freemasons edit of it, I don't know who the Freemasons are. Tell you who does, Illuminati Mike. But I'm listening to that playlist and I'm inspired and I'm thinking about time travel and hydration. I'm like, yeah, Aguilera makes the most sense to pull into the time machine because she's down. So I show up, quick pit stop in time. Aguilera's 25. Pull up alongside her in a time machine. She looks over at you and she's like, oh. And then you're like, get in the fucking time machine. And she's like, no. And then you're like, get in the fucking time machine. And she does. And then you're off. Or are you? Question mark. That's right. You still need one more person in your crew. Who's that going to be? Slash from Guns N' Roses. You need an axe man. He's going to bring a guitar and an amp. And the three of you are going to show up at that jousting tournament. Put yourself in my shoes in this time travel scenario. How would that feel to step foot onto that pitch, that grassy field? To your left, Christina Aguilera, who everyone thinks is definitely a witch. All the heat's off of you. And then to the right is Slash, just being like, and he just goes on a solo. And the whole crowd is loving it. Also, what did you bring? That's right. Small sample packets of powdered Gatorade for the common folk, for your fans. Because a lot of sports back then, you had to have total buy-in. You wanted to be a crowd favorite. That's still kind of the case, but back then it was more important than ever. So what do? I show up at the tournament. I've got powdered Gatorade sample packets, lemon lime. I order Slash after playing a solo. I say, go to the creek, make a couple of big batches of Gatorade, lemon lime, Slash, if you would. So he does that. He comes back and I teach all of the common folk how to take a multivitamin and cannonball it with Gatorade. All of a sudden, everybody's feeling amazing. And then I'm out there just swinging sword. I am swinging sword. And naturally, I would win any kind of athletic feat because I'm no like pro athlete, right? Like I can put 225 up on bench, like once. I can squat a little bit of weight. I'm pretty sure I could outrun absolutely anybody in the Middle Ages. Did they even know how to run back then? If they saw a person running, would they be like, what the hell is that guy doing? Why is he moving so fast? That could be the case. Can you imagine you're just wearing maybe, instead of heavy plate armor, maybe a lighter chainmail? Instead of a sword, maybe you're rocking a staff or a pair of staffs. What is that? Staves. The plural of staff is staves. You're learning a lot today on this Sports Monday. I haven't done a Sports Monday like this in a while, where it just really goes off the rails the whole time. That's kind of nice though, right? It's not a bad thing. So you hit up your Squire after you've hydrated the entire crowd and everybody's got sugar coursing through their veins and they've never had that experience before. They have a multivitamin. All of a sudden their B vitamins are through the roof. Everybody's energized. They're cheering for me in a huge way. And then it comes to jousting the Black Knight for the win, because I've handled everybody. Again, my hydration situation far exceeds anything that these people have ever seen before. Plus, I know how to run, and they're just like, what the, how is he doing that? But I'm just beating people senseless because I got great sleep, I'm hydrated, and I'm a decent athlete. But by the standards back then, I'm probably the greatest athlete in all the realm. But I'm fighting the Black Knight. And imagine this. He's like 500 yards away from me on his horse. I'm 500 yards away on my horse. But I've got kind of an ace up my sleeve because I gave my horse Gatorade. So instantly that's going to pretty much double the speed that my horse can run. The crowd's on my side. The king is watching. You remember Edward? Ed? He is watching from the keep. He's got a good view, and he's like sipping that Gatorade Frost. For the peasants, it's all lemon lime. For the king, Cascade Crash, Frost. Maybe a Riptide Rush. A little purple. Riptide Rush, not bad. Maybe you just get him a blue. Maybe you get him a Glacier Freeze. Those Frost flavors really were dynamic. Really dynamic stuff. So he's watching. Your horse is jacked up on Gatorade. And then Slash just kind of comes out of nowhere and starts playing the Star Spangled Banner on his electric guitar. And then check this. So I start riding. This is what I will do. Okay. I start riding high speed. My horse is killing it. Galloping. This is no trot, folks. This is a full gallop. And then what? Out of nowhere, you hear booming voice. Booming voice. It is so loud. Nobody's eardrums are exploding. Imploding? Exploding? What does an eardrum do when it takes too much sound in? Kyle, can you just like WebMD that? That'd be great. So out of nowhere, you hear over the loudspeaker. Huge speakers. Just, ah. And who is it? That's right. The witch herself, Christina Aguilera. And what is she doing? She is flying in an F-15 fighter jet that has speakers mounted to it. Just, and the Black Knight is just like, what is happening? I thought this was going to be just a regular Saturday or whatever they called it back then. Catil's Day. Big Catil's Day match going down. So he's rattled. That's a war cry nobody's ready for. Even to this day, I don't think any athlete would be ready for that. If an F-15 flew over your game and you just heard Aguilera with her pipes just being like, ah, boy, does that just mess you up in a really huge way. But then on top of that, Aguilera, she is in an F-15, so she just unleashes hell upon the Black Knight, just bombs him, hits him with a cluster bomb, and he just explodes into 500 million pieces everywhere. The crowd's loving it. The king is pretty alarmed, though. He's like, what just happened? Because you know what I would be doing? Eventually, I would get tired of taking all the heat off me for being a witch. And I'd say, what if I'm a witch as well? Yeah, Aguilera's a witch. What of it? But so am I. So instead of a staff or a lance, when I'm at these tournaments, I've just got a little stick that I wave in the air. Some would say that's very much like a wand, but it's going to be much more crude than that. It's not going to be polished at all. It's just going to be like a really gnarled little stick. I'm going to wave it around, and then the F-15 with stealth technology is going to fly over my opponent. Their last thing they're going to hear is, get you, yeah, yeah. And then just, scorched earth. Scorched earth. So I win every tournament. And it all really starts with hydration. Some of you have a question right now. You're saying, you started off by talking about maybe just bringing like some water tablets back in your time machine, and now you've moved up to an F-15, Christina Aguilera, / small Gatorade packets, multivitamins. How big is this time machine? Many of you are asking. That is the pressing question on your mind. It's about the size of an aircraft carrier. You know, people have this misconception that a time machine would somehow be compact and really casual. No. My time machine would be about the size of the USS Nimitz. That's the newer aircraft carrier. Those things are fast, powered by nuclear reactors. Very fast vessel. You know this is all going down around the English countryside, and that's how Aguilera is really doing damage with the F-15, because it's just on the aircraft carrier. It's not just the size of it. I basically convert an aircraft carrier to a time machine, bring Aguilera, bring Slash, sail around the British Isles, dock occasionally, show up to a tournament, get everybody hydrated, and then stare down the king and be like, I'm going to be taking that castle, pal. Boy, that might change a lot of things. Butterfly effect, Ashton Kutcher, right? Because if you bring back an M60, just a gun or a rocket launcher, and you're storming castles, that turns out poorly in the future. But if you do it right, if you bring back an aircraft carrier, I think things go well for everybody in the future, even with the butterfly effect. But boy, wouldn't that just be great? Aguilera just, Slash just, and I'm just credited as being the witch who defeated all of England. Kings. All of them. That sounds pretty chill. Not gonna lie. But that is the hydration situation. A one-man siege of a castle. That's a sports fantasy of mine. Because that's sports. Some of you are scratching your head and you're saying, this is really deviating far off of sports. And for those who are thinking that, I'm going to tell you right now, your imagination is as decimated as some of these kingdoms that I would be firebombing by issuing orders to Christina Aguilera. Do you understand? Can you see that now? Now that I've called you out, you're like, yeah, this isn't really that sporty. And then I just say that and you're like, oh, fuck. Oh, damn it. Ah, shit. You just got called out. It's okay. Think about all the other things that you could bring back to the Middle Ages. Or if you were not feeling the Middle Ages, maybe you just go back to ancient Rome. You go to the Colosseum. You show up. No matter what time period I'm going to, maybe I go to the Punic Wars. Okay? But people would learn to fear the Aguilera war cry, and they would just know, like, okay, we give up. Like, you just hear the first, like, and it's over. Everybody just packs up shop, and they're like, fuck this. The king's just like, just take the crown. Then you pour some Gatorade Fierce all over his head, and you'd be like, rise, king, rise. He's all sticky from the Gatorade. You're like, just get out of here. The baptism in Gatorade, it's both uplifting and very humiliating. That's sports. But yeah, the common folk, they would love you. If you just rationed small packets of powdered Gatorade, maybe you bring back a like a pot vape pen, and you just take it to the local apothecary, Archimedes. You say, Medes, baby, what do you think of this? Take a breath of that. Then you're never shaking the reputation of being a witch because you just infused him with spirits. You're like, Archimedes, this is going to hit you a little too hard. Try to hold on to thine wits. Do you understand what I'm saying, Archimedes? Do you get it? Archimedes? Medes? What do you want me to call you, Archimedes? Meanwhile, he's just stoned out of his mind. And he's like, the dragons. And I'm like, dude, don't even worry about those. I have Christina Aguilera in an F-15 fighter jet. That won't be an issue. Sounds pretty cool. But yeah, you never get wrecked off your own supply. That's a rule. If you're going to bring back some of those pot vape pens, talk about a way to really lower your performance. And eventually you get a leg chopped off because you just baked. You bring back those items mainly as gifts, establish your credibility. Maybe you put the Gatorade in glass vials. Maybe you don't bring them in the plastic bottles because that's more of something that these people in the Middle Ages that they could appreciate. And you say like, do you want some of this elixir, sir? Can I tempt you with this glacier freeze? Would they even know what the hell I'm talking about? How incompatible was their English with what I speak now? Probably entirely. Start hitting them with like a bunch of weird slang. Be like, hey, yo, let me yeet that turkey leg. Think about the feasts. You could tell some key jokes. If they understood the English, I think you would go back. Even if you weren't an exceptionally funny person, you could tell any joke ever. And people, did they even know how to laugh back then? Was that as foreign as running? That you just show up, get people all hopped up on Gatorade, sugar, and then you're like, why'd the chicken cross the road? And they're just like, oh my God. Further cementing your reputation as a witch because you can put people into spells of laughter. You can do it all. Think about your most average person that you know. That person could go back into the Middle Ages and be really effective at a lot of things. Isn't that astonishing? Think about somebody that you know that you're like, that person has a pretty lousy skill set. Even they would be doing big things if they had access to a time machine. They went back. Sure. If I just used this as like a writing prompt and I took a national survey and I was like, you can bring 2 people with you in your time machine and 5 items back to the Middle Ages. What do you bring? I'm going to tell you right now, nobody is going to put out the combination that I just have. Christina Aguilera / multivitamins, Gatorade, water tablets for sanitizing the water. The F-15 fighter jet doesn't count because it comes with the time machine. Do you understand? But man, naturally I'm winning tournaments, jousting and just boxing. You think they knew how to like, if you got in a fist fight back in the Middle Ages, do you even think that they knew how to block? Like imagine if you just like blocked a punch. They're like, what the hell? Like normally it was just duking it out. Every shot lands, nobody's blocking anything, but you show up and you block. What the hell? You'd be a force. You'd be a force. Anytime anybody calls you out and says like, you're not that good of an athlete, be like, well, I would if I went back to the Middle Ages with Christina Aguilera and Slash. See what they say. See what they say to that. Maybe today you go up to somebody, you ask them, you'd be like, can you imagine if there were an F-15 fighter jet that had huge speakers with subwoofers attached? And you just heard, get you, yeah, da, da. And also, for instance, you're a medieval peasant. You just say that to somebody. You're like, hey, put yourself in the shoes of like kind of a filthy medieval peasant who's never really showered. Then imagine an F-15 fighter jet firebombing napalm all around the kingdom, and a lot of people get wrecked, except for you. And then somebody shows up to you with a twig and waves it in your face and says, like, I'm seconds away from obliterating you. What does that feel like? That's what you ask people. Say, what would that feel like for you? Sports is such an emotional roller coaster. And I think you would win over the hearts and minds of everybody. Because it starts with you being hydrated and having, even essential oil drops. You go back in time, and I think people are like, yeah, this guy's he's a fucking witch. You just have a little 1 ounce glass bottle. If that's the only thing you bring back and it's like full of eucalyptus, and you just go up to a king and you like, put your face right next to this and take a breath in through your nose. And he's like, breathe through my nose. What? Yeah, they haven't heard of that. They're all mouth breathers back then. There's probably a lot of things that we just didn't know about those lifestyles back then that would make anybody coming back in time have a huge competitive advantage in sports. In between jousting rounds, instead of just like, I don't know, drinking a gallon of beer, you're like, I'll take like 16 ounces of Gatorade. And then you're just lopping people's faces off. Legends spread of you far and wide to places as foreign as France and even more foreign as southern Italy. They hear of your spoils in the Middle Ages. Word would travel. Be like, hey, you heard of that witch? Shitty looking wand. Great athlete. Put yourself in this scenario. If you're a gal and you're listening to this and you're like, I don't know if this is really for me. If you have that thought, if you've had that thought at any point during this, I'm so sorry. You need more powerful, uplifting people in your life to say, you've got full permission, authorization. You have my blessing to go back in time and win local sporting matches, fights to the death. Katrina, do you want that? Do you want to be in on that, Katrina? Don't let anybody tell you no. But yeah, I think that's going to wrap it up for DarbyCast, little Monday sports. Do yourself a solid. Go back in the catalog. Re-listen to your favorite episode, or maybe listen to an episode that you've never heard before and say, I'm going to roll the dice. Maybe I do one with a guest. Maybe I don't. Maybe I just pick myself up, dust myself off, take a multivitamin, take some pre-workout, enjoy some powdered Gatorade. Maybe that's what your week looks like. This is like almost an economics Wednesday, the way this is coming off, because it's like a business idea. In a way, you go back and you commandeer some castles. I don't know how many of you can afford a castle right now. I can't. I wouldn't mind living in a castle either. I wouldn't mind it. That actually sounds ideal. A couple trap doors, a couple booby traps. I take over Edward's castle and be like, you're going in the dungeon, pal. It's over for you, Ed, son of a bitch. And then I just yell, release the hounds. And then his face gets bitten off. And that's just how I roll. And then the castle's mine. And then I've just got Slash as not the court jester. He would be the minstrel. So I'd be sitting in the throne room and he'd be like, and I'd be like, Slash, good job. Good job. Go have a hog's leg, Slash. Take 5, Slash. You work too hard, man. Relax. And Aguilera's there, and nobody would mess with you if you had Aguilera by your side. There'd be a lot of assassination attempts on you after you went back and totally won over the entire kingdom, had the king's face bitten off. But Aguilera would be your number one bodyguard. Even when she's not patrolling the skies in the F-15. Custom speakers, mounted, big subs. A couple assassins storm the throne room while you're just enjoying some Gatorade. And Aguilera just steps in. And she's like, thanks for making me a fighter. And then the assassins, their heads just explode because like, what is being said? And he goes like, when she goes like kind of into that throaty vibration that nobody really knows how it works. Yeah, in a medieval person, that induces a seizure. She's just like, but she pulls it off. Let's be honest. Have you gone back and you listened to any Christina Aguilera recently? I have. Not afraid to admit that. She's good, man. She's good. But boy, would she be misunderstood in any other time period. She's kind of misunderstood now, perhaps. I get her. Totally, 100%. She and I. But back in the day, boy, would that have been a confusing mess for assassins. They would have been so overwhelmed. They would have been so hurt by those vocals. Badass chicks from the Moulin Rouge. And they're just like, just have these coronaries. Meanwhile, I'm just sipping a nice orange Gatorade. I love orange Gatorade. Like of the original 3 flavors, red, yellow, and orange, I don't mind orange at all. People discount the orange flavor. They're like, oh, I'd rather have red. It's like, with decision making like that, I would never take you on my time-traveling aircraft carrier back hundreds of years to win jousting tournaments. You can just rip up that invitation. If you're not an orange drinking Gatorade kind of person, because some of you right now, you're thinking to yourselves like, do you think he would ever, I wonder if I could ask him to sub out Slash for me. Slash is negotiable. Aguilera, not at all. She's coming 100%. There's only one spot open. And to get that other spot, you would have to be able to play some kind of musical instrument because I need that. I got Aguilera on vocals. I got me on telling why the chicken crossed the road jokes, inducing mass hysteria into the common folk. But yeah, if you want in, just write into info@DarbyShireUSA.com. Just write in. Write an email to Kyle and be like, I'd like to toss my name in the hat. Respectfully, of course. Use the correct language when you write an email. Be respectful. Preface it and you'd be like, hey, no, you're probably pretty busy right now, but just wanted to float this by you, kind of put some feelers out, get a temperature reading on this. Time travel? Can I throw my name in that hat? Respectfully? I think I'd be a huge value add. I will consider emails like that. Anything else? Anything worded in a pompous way? Be like, I think I'd be a better fit than Slash. That's going in the junk box. That'll get filtered out. Kyle wouldn't even see that because the spam filter would pick it up. They'd be like, oh, this is garbage. It's a garbage request. Email server just processes it. Yeah, it's never getting any visibility. Send this to somebody who's a big sports fan. If somebody this week tries to talk to you and is like, hey, what do you think about NBA Finals? Be like, what do you think about Napalm Strikes on Castles by Christina Aguilera? Wake up. Wake up. That hurts. You ask somebody a question, they give you a sideways look and say, geez, wake up. Be that person. Because there's going to be sports talk. There's going to be a lot of sports chatter. Fantasy football chatter. It's going to be wide open. There's going to be some injuries that somebody's going to be like, hey, like, what do you think about plantar fasciitis, right? And you're going to be like, what do you think about dosing the local alchemist with meth? And that's kind of the show you run. Share this if you feel like it. Share it with people. Toss them the link. Just go to copy link, paste it in a text message to them, paste it into some group texts, but also paste it onto some individual things. And then here's the wording you use when you text to an individual. You say, honestly, I don't know a lot of people who would love something like this or even be able to understand it, but you're really smart and you have a knack for appreciating things that are amazing. So it wouldn't make sense of me not to send this to you. Did you catch all that? That's how you introduce it. Maybe you share it on your social media, on your story, just a text story. Be like, I'm listening to DarbyCast and now I'm a sports genius. Just announce that to people. People say, what do you mean? And you say, you just do a little research. Let me just conclude this DarbyCast. I'll conclude it. You go back in time. You leave Aguilera there. She wouldn't be able to leave. She would be so drunk on the power that she had that you'd never be able to convince her to leave. You would be like, I need to go tell this. I need to tell my story. I need to write a book about this. Title it Gitchy Gitchy Ya Ya, parentheses Da Da, by you. And that's just your tell-all about the time that you took an aircraft carrier time machine with Christina Aguilera / and some key nutritional supplements. You were hydrated the entire time. People loved you, but you weren't a pushover. You were actually ruthless at times. Because people want to see that. They want that, going back to what I talked about at the beginning of the episode, they want to see a little vulnerability. They want to say like, oh, is this person pretty real? And if you tell the story the way it actually went down, people will respect you and they'll be like, that's an authentic person. I hope they come out with a tequila line. I hope they come out with a seltzer, alcoholic seltzer line, because I'd buy it. Do you understand why that's important? To be authentic, vulnerable as well. That's DarbyCast. That's Monday. That's sports. We'll be back.